Good morning and welcome to this Wolsey Hall Oxford homeschooling information webinar. This webinar is for students of ages from our very youngest age, from 4 right up to our oldest students doing A-levels at maybe 16 to 18 years of age. We've got families joining us from all around the globe today, so a really big welcome to you all, regardless of whether it's morning, afternoon or evening. So many thanks for turning up and sharing this webinar with us today. I'm Lynn Stacey, Head of Marketing here at Wolsey Hall Oxford. And just to let you know, we will be recording the webinar and we will send out links to the recording to you a few days after the event. The email that you'll get will be a Zoom email, very similar to the reminder emails you've been getting rather than from a Wolsey Hall email address. So please do look out for those, and then you can rewatch the webinar or share it with family and friends or whatever you want to do with it. So the format for today will be a presentation followed by a question and answer session. You can find the question and answer area where you can type your questions at the bottom of your screens. And when you do put in your questions, it's really helpful if you add the age of your child and the current level of education that they're at, so we can tailor our answers properly for you. However, we would recommend that you wait until the end of the presentation before adding any questions to the Q&A. As we expect, a lot of your questions will be covered in the presentation. We've put together a really detailed presentation that we hope will cover many of the questions that you may have about homeschooling with Wolsey Hall. Please note, we won't be answering any questions that are specific to an individual child today. For these types of questions, please send us in an inquiry form from our website, and our admissions team will be really happy to have a one-to-one confidential chat with you about anything and everything to do with the personalisation of your child's education. So I'm joined here today by a number of colleagues who will be typing answers in the Q&A. We've got representatives from our admissions team, our tutor team, and our supervisors of courses. And I'm also joined here by Christine Armstrong, Head of Primary, and Ruth Young, Head of Secondary, who will be giving you the presentation this morning. So without further ado, it's over to Christine and Ruth. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Lynn. It's just like to add my welcome to Lynn's. It's wonderful to see so many of you here today to find out about the homeschooling courses that Wolsey Hall Oxford can offer your children at whichever point they are in their educational journey. So Christine and I are going to give a presentation this morning going through a variety of items, hopefully answering a lot of the questions that you may have about homeschooling with Wolsey Hall. So to begin, to tell you a little bit about our accreditations and who we work with in order to develop our online homeschooling courses. Wolsey Hall is very proud to be both a registered Cambridge online school and a Pearson Edexcel virtual centre. You may have heard of Cambridge and Edexcel Pearson. They are globally recognised examination boards, and students take thousands, if not millions, of exams with them every single year, leading to IGCSEs, GCSEs, AS levels and A levels. So by being part of this family with Cambridge and Pearson, with Wolsey Hall, we are able to be assured, and you as homeschooling families can be assured, that the curriculum that your child is following will lead to recognised qualifications when external exams are taken. Our courses also link to English National Curriculum where relevant as well, both in primary and in the secondary phase. So again, as a homeschooling family, you can join Wolsey Hall from different educational backgrounds and align with your child's previous studies, finding the right level of course for them.
Just extending my welcome as well. Just to start off, just a moment just to talk about Wolsey Hall. Wolsey Hall has been around for a very long time. It was established in 1894, and as you can imagine, it looked very different back then, providing handwritten notes to people around the Oxford area that were interested in finding out more about what was going on in universities at that point. But I'm really pleased to say that Wolsey Hall has developed significantly since then, and we provide what is considered to be an excellent online homeschooling service for those students wishing to homeschool. So as Lynn mentioned, we cater for the whole of the educational phases. So from 3.5 to 4 years old, all the way through to 18 years old. And we have some mature students with us as well. So we have some adults studying with Wolsey Hall as well, who are choosing primarily to take IGCSEs or A-level exams. We have students throughout the world. We are so thrilled to be able to provide an education to students, not just in the UK, but actually all over the world. We're currently with students in over 125 countries, which is phenomenal. And it really is a case that homeschooling and the advancement of online education allows us to provide that service to people who perhaps wouldn't have been able to access it otherwise. We do have some fantastic alumni as part of Wolsey Hall, and we are incredibly proud of all of our students. But in particular, just to mention that we have Nelson Mandela as one of our alumni, who we are proud to be able to mention in this presentation.
So why might you choose Wolsey Hall as your homeschooling provider of choice for your child? We are aware, as I'm sure you are, that there is a huge amount of noise in the marketplace regarding educational resources. There's a huge amount out there. With Wolsey Hall, as I mentioned when I first spoke, we are part of a wider family in terms of being able to provide accredited curriculum to you. So you as a homeschooling family can be sure that your child is covering the correct content, the correct level, engaging and inspiring materials to really develop their education, to develop their independence of thought, and to really inspire them to their perhaps higher education aspirations, or just their future development. So you can be sure that they are covering the right content at every point with our courses at Wolsey Hall. The other thing that for us at Wolsey Hall is really key is the fact that we work with our homeschooling families on an individual level. We seek to provide you with a very bespoke, individualized experience right from the moment that you submit an inquiry form to speak to one of our admissions team, all the way through your time with Wolsey Hall. Your child is seen as a complete individual. They're still part of a wider community of homeschoolers, but in terms of their academic studies, it's personalized. This means that you are able to choose the correct level for your child. Your child doesn't have to study all subjects at the same level. You can have your child may study different subjects at different levels, dependent on their previous experience, meaning that if your child is particularly able in one area, they can study that at a higher level. For example, they may be aged 11, studying generally Year 7 courses, but particularly gifted in maths, and they're looking at studying at a higher level like Year 9 or even IGCSE. With Wolsey Hall, that is completely possible. You're able to build your own bespoke curriculum. We also do not have a minimum number of subjects that your child must take, unlike in the mainstream school where they study the set Year 7 curriculum or the set Year 5 curriculum. You're able to pick and choose, which means you can use Wolsey Hall to supplement mainstream education, as Christine mentioned, as many mature students are doing, taking one subject for interest. Some of our homeschoolers, our younger students, also do that whilst attending mainstream school. It really gives you as a homeschooling family control and creativity over your child's studies. And it's something that we are very proud to be able to offer in the world of online learning. We do this in terms of placement, because this often is a question parents have, is how do I know where my child best fits? We have an exceptionally experienced admissions team who are able to work with you to review previous schooling or previous homeschooling that has taken place, as well as a variety of different methods during that admissions process, such as placement quizzes, ready quizzes, checklists, so you can see, and you can also see samples of all of our courses on our website to find the best fit for your child. We also recognise the need for parents to have the correct documentation so that they can see how their child is progressing, just as a mainstream school would in terms of providing reports. That is also part and parcel of what we offer at Wolsey Hall. So we at Wolsey Hall look to establish a very strong partnership, working together with our families, our tutors, and other key members of the Wolsey Hall team that we're going to go on to speak about shortly, to make sure that your child has the best possible learning experience, no matter what their age is.
So just to move on, for those who may be less familiar with the UK system, we thought it might be useful just to go through the different phases of Wolsey Hall so you can see where your child may sit within these phases. So starting at the lower end of the school, we start with lower primary. And lower primary consists of getting ready for year one and year two. Now, typically in a mainstream school here in the UK, this would cater to children from the age of 3.5 to 4 years old, all the way through to 7 years old. And then we move into upper primary. So upper primary consists of 4 year groups, and this is years 3, 4, 5, and 6. And typically in a UK school, this would be for children aged 7 years old all the way through to 11 years old. And at this point, they move on to secondary. So secondary school at Wolsey Hall starts with lower secondary, and this covers 3 year groups, years 7, 8, and 9. And this is typically for children in a mainstream school of 11 years old through to 14 years old. So these 3 phases of Wolsey Hall, a course represents 1 academic year of study. So from getting ready for year 1 all the way through to year 9, if you were to take a course in a particular subject, then what you cover in that subject is representative of what you would cover in 1 academic year in a school setting. So most of our students tend to take between 7 and 9 months to complete that course. But you have 12 months access to that course, which allows you to take breaks, to go on holiday, etc. as well. Then we move into what we call the examination years, and we start with GCSE and IGCSE, and this is known as years 10 and 11. So these are 2-year programs of study, and in a mainstream school setting, this would typically be for children 14 years old, then taking their examinations when they reach 16 years old. Following this phase, we have the final phase of Wolsey Hall, and this is our A-level phase. Again, it's a 2-year programme of study, and this is known as years 12 and years 13 in a mainstream school, and typically students are 16 through to 18 years old during this phase, taking those examinations at 18 years old. So you may be able to see where your child slots into Wolsey Hall and those phases. But again, as Ruth already mentioned, there is flexibility there to actually be working at multiple year groups. So taking subjects at different year groups depending on your child's prior learning. So at the end of A-levels, that's when typically students will be making their applications to universities, colleges, or career, and they go on to either further study in higher education or they join the workforce.
I'm going to talk a little bit now about how our courses work. I've already touched upon, as has Christine, the flexibility that Wolsey Hall can provide a family in terms of the number of subjects that you can study with us at any one point, and also the levels and the year group levels at which you can study. The other flexibility that we offer relates to the process of enrolling on courses. We do not operate a standard school year, unlike a mainstream school or indeed other online learning providers. A standard school year in the Northern Hemisphere would typically begin August, September time and end in the summer. In the Southern Hemisphere would be more sort of a January start date. With Wolsey Hall, you're able to enroll on courses year round. There is no fixed start date. You as a family, when you've spoken to our admissions team, and you've submitted your application, you will be asked to identify your preferred access date. That access date suits you as a family for your child to begin their studies that you are enrolling them upon. And that access date is able to be set throughout the entire year. So there's not a fixed month or a fixed day where that takes place. So again, that's additional flexibility that you are able to take into account when planning your studies. So some of our families maybe decide to start with 3 or 4 subjects at the first point, and then 3 months later add in additional subjects once their child has got used to the Wolsey Hall system. And you're able to do that. You don't have to wait a whole year before adding more subjects in, is essentially what I'm saying. So in terms of when a student has decided which subjects they're studying, and you as a family have gone through the admissions and the application process, we then have for our families what we term the orientation period. This period is when your child has access to all of their academic courses, but it's not all just about the academic courses at Wolsey Hall. We also offer additional courses to help support our homeschooling families dependent on the phase. So we have orientation courses to help your child get familiar with our learning platform Canvas, where all of our courses exist, including all of our wonderful resources that I'll talk a little bit more about in a moment. And also, as I said, dependent on phase, you may have access to an exams information course or a university advice course that just adds additional context and guidance for you as a homeschooling family as you continue your journey. So it's all about, for us, educating the whole child. For example, in secondary, students will have access to a course called Own Your Work, which allows them to understand the correct way to use references and citations in their work to make sure it's purely theirs. And as you can imagine, with the dawn of artificial intelligence and the use of that, that's becoming ever more important for our students who are working online to be aware of. So when that orientation period is taking place, you also meet some of the key people at Wolsey Hall. So tutors and student progress managers, and we'll talk more about those specific roles in a little while in the presentation. And then you are all set and ready to begin your studies. All of our courses, as I mentioned, are on Canvas, our learning platform. This is a secure, password-protected system where our courses are hosted. It's worth mentioning that the way in which the courses are structured do differ between primary and secondary due to the age of the children that are studying those courses. So in primary, our courses are parent-led to allow our youngest students to gain the most from their homeschooling experience. So on the primary courses, the courses have lesson plans for parents to follow. There is guidance for parents on how to best develop that independent thinking and develop the best outcomes of their work. Whereas when they move into the secondary phase of Wolsey Hall, the courses are to the students rather than to the parents, because at that point students are becoming more autonomous in their learning and able to take on a little bit more of the ownership and responsibility of working through content on the platform. That's not to say that in secondary we wouldn't recommend parental or adult support and guidance at home with the courses, because students, we believe they learn best when we're sharing our experiences with a trusted adult at home. So again, we would always look to work in partnership with a parent or trusted adult in the secondary phase as well. For other things related to how our courses work, our courses have a variety of interactive and online resources to supplement the textbooks and other resources within the courses. This allows students to engage in self-assessment activities to see how they're getting on with their module content or their lesson content in primary, and assess their progress as they're going, working out if there are areas that they need to revise or revisit. Again, linked to the flexibility that we've spoken about is the fact that there is no set timetable for you as a homeschooling family to follow. You are free to set the timetable that suits you as a family. Christine mentioned, working around holidays, working around family commitments. There's no online lessons for your child to attend, which means that you are free to plan their learning in the way that best suits them and you. Instead, our courses have a wealth of videos to help scaffold learning. This also allows students to progress at the pace that is correct for them, meaning that they can revisit content as many times as they want rather than have to move along at the pace of a class. Again, underpinning that individualized bespoke approach that I spoke about earlier. And on the other hand, it means that if a student is progressing very quickly, they are able to work at a faster pace than perhaps a class would. So for us, this is the best way of promoting that excellent progress and support in a child's educational journey. Our courses do also include subscriptions to a wide variety of different materials to help supplement. You can see a few examples on the screen now, such as Language Nut, My Maths, Caboodle, and these are all highly recognised educational platforms that would be accessible to you when enrolling on particular Wolsey Hall courses.
So Ruth mentioned key people at Wolsey Hall that will be part of your journey. And I just want to talk about two different personnel at Wolsey Hall. So the first being our tutors. So our tutors are all UK qualified teachers with years and years of experience in physical school settings as well as online settings. And so our tutors are there to provide expertise and guidance on how you are getting on with your learning. So when you first join Wolsey Hall, you are invited to meet your tutor in an online meeting if you would like to just get to know them a little bit before your learning starts. And then they have a key role in your child's education from that point. So all of our courses have assignments dotted throughout the course, so at milestones throughout. And these assignments are undertaken by your child at home, and then they are submitted to Wolsey Hall via the learning platform. And these assignments can be all sorts of different things. So it may be written work, it may be a video, it may be artwork. So there are a number of different things that constitute an assignment. And the assignment is a fantastic way for the tutor to see how your child is progressing with their learning on the course. So they will mark the assignment, they will provide an overall grade. They will annotate on the assignment with some useful help, tips, advice, and then they will comment back to you. So they will give you areas of strength that they can see in the learning, and they will also provide a few next steps in learning to help your child progress even more. So at various points throughout the course, depending on the level that you are studying at, then there is an opportunity to have a virtual meeting with a tutor. And absolutely key is they are available via the Canvas Messenger system. So on the online learning platform Canvas, you are able to send a message to your tutor if you have any questions or you have a query or you want to check something, and they will come back to you with the answer that you're seeking or the advice that you are looking for. So the tutors play a really important role. They are assessing the progress that your child is making, and they are giving you academic feedback to support that throughout the course. The other key personnel is student progress managers, or SPM for short. Now, whilst you may have multiple tutors, so for example, if you are studying IGCSEs with Wolsey Hall, you will have a different tutor expert for each of the subjects that you are taking. So you might have, if you were taking 8 GCSEs with Wolsey Hall, you might have 8 tutors. However, you will only have one student progress manager. So your one SPM is allocated to you right at the beginning of your journey, and they will have a welcome call with you once you enroll with Wolsey Hall. They'll find out more about you. They will give you some help, guidance and tips for getting started with Wolsey Hall, and they will help to create an assignment schedule for you so that the assignment schedule can help to keep your child on track with their learning. It can also factor in any upcoming holidays or family commitments, etc. And it is possible to change that assignment timetable. So if you were in a position where, for example, your child has not handed in an assignment because of circumstances, you can get in touch with your SPM to make a change to that timetable to help them to catch up and make it manageable. Another key aspect of your SPM's role is that your SPM will be monitoring your child's learning across all of their subjects. As I mentioned, you might have 8 tutors if you were doing 8 IGCSEs or GCSEs, and your SPM is responsible for checking the grades, checking the comments, seeing what's coming in across all of those subjects to help make sure that your child stays on track with their learning. They will also regularly reach out to you. They'll be in touch every month to see how you're getting on and how things are progressing. And again, like with tutors, whereas your tutor is available via the learning platform, you also have an email contact address for your SPM, and you are able to get in contact and reach out as and when you may need to. So those 2 key personnel between the tutors and the SPM, in partnership with both you and your child, is a fantastic umbrella around your child's learning. So I'd like to introduce you to Abdullah. Abdullah is one of our primary students homeschooling with Wolsey Hall, and he very kindly has shared a snippet of what life is like for him as a primary homeschooler.
Hi, I'm Abdullah. I'm from Singapore. I study in Wolsey Hall Oxford, doing year 3 and 4. We live near the sea, and this makes us enjoy the nature along with my studies. A typical day for me would be studying, playing, swimming, and spending lots of time with my family. I study maths and English from year 4 and geography, science, and computing from year 3. The day begins with printing out the lesson plans for the day, and after my mom explains them, I do the exercises on my own. Along with the exercises, I also sit with the computer to do activities online provided by Wolsey Hall Oxford. The online activities are interactive, and it helps me to do the subjects like a game, and it's very interesting to me. Along with my regular studies, I get crafting activities from science and geography, which gives me peace of mind, and I take great interest in doing so. My favorite game indoors is to play with building blocks. I love to color when I'm sitting idle. My mom prints out coloring pages, and I love to spend my time coloring them. After studying 1 or 2 subjects, I go out to the playground with my brothers. Homeschooling has been an amazing experience as I finish my studies in time and get plenty of time to do self-development and build a memorable childhood.
I hope you enjoyed meeting Abdullah there. It always makes me smile watching that video. So just a couple of things to point out there. You may have heard Abdullah say that he prints out some activities in the morning and his mum helps to explain what they are. And then he is working quite independently. So Abdullah is a great example of a child having been with Wolsey Hall for a while who has gained an incredible amount of independence, but does still need mum to be part of that journey. So it is important that there is a responsible adult if your child is studying at the primary level. It was also interesting to hear that he was studying subjects at different levels. So he was studying some year 3 subjects, which are the correct age-related year group for him, but also studying subjects at year 4 level as well. So had a particular interest and was showing great development in English and maths. So he was studying those at year 4 level. And also as well, it just highlights in that video that we don't want our students to be on the computer all day, every day. So there was a lovely mix of online and offline activities that Abdullah was working on. You could see he had a textbook that had been provided there by Wolsey Hall as well to do some of his maths work as well. So we really do want to ensure that our students are having a balance of online and offline activities to do at home. So just to move on and talk a little bit now about the courses that we offer at each phase. We start with lower primary and we have 2 courses at the getting ready for year 1 phase. And this is English and maths. And these are still the equivalent of 1 academic year of study. And these are aimed at our 3.5 to 4 year olds when they first join Wolsey Hall. In year 1 and year 2, we then have all of the other subjects that you can see on the screen. So we offer the core foundation subjects of English, maths and science. And these are pretty much seen as the most important subjects for a child to study. But as well as English, maths and science, we also have a number of other fantastic subjects for your child. So we have French as a language, we have art and music that a child can study. We have humanities, which is a combination of both geography and history combined, available at year 1 and year 2. And we also have skills for life as well, which is all about personal development and awareness. So focuses on yourself, emotions, forming relationships and friendships, etc., which is a lovely course. And for those that are in year 2, we also have phonics for those that may be bridging because they're missing some of that phonics knowledge, that relationship between letters and sounds in the English language when they join Wolsey Hall at the year 2 level. So moving on from lower primary, you can see in upper primary, we have all of the same subjects available, English, maths and science being the most important, but then we have humanities now has been broken down into its own subject. So rather than humanities, we have an English course and we have a geography course for each of those year groups. So year 3 course, year 4 course, year 5 course, year 6 course. And also as well, we introduce computing as well once you reach upper primary. So those are the courses available at the primary level. For those that are solely using Wolsey Hall for the majority of their homeschooling, we do recommend that in lower primary, for year 1 and year 2 students, they should really be taking the core subjects as a minimum. They should be taking English, maths and science. And when you get to upper primary, if Wolsey Hall is your main source of homeschooling, then we would recommend 5 subjects at the upper primary level. However, we would always say if you're taking less than 5, try and make sure that you're doing the core subjects unless you have a different pathway to access those core subjects outside of Wolsey Hall.
We're going to move on to look at the secondary courses momentarily. First of all, though, I'd like you to meet Steph, who's one of our IGCSE students, and she's going to talk you through her steps that she takes to complete an assignment, one of those milestones that Christine spoke about earlier.
Well, hi, I'm Steph, a student that does IGCSEs at Wolsey Hall, and I'm here to show you my steps to preparing and completing an assignment.
Step 1. Canvas.
This is the app or website where you're going to get all the information and material you need to learn for your subjects. It is your ultimate learning source. On Canvas, you can do your modules and quizzes, turn your assignments in, receive your assignment marks, and message your tutors for any help. Canvas will be your best friend.
Step 2. Modules.
Every subject contains more or less 9 modules. Every module consists of topics where it gives you tasks you need to complete. Most module work will require you to read some pages, do various questions, and jot down some notes. For my first topic in Economics Module 5, I will need to work through pages 124 to 125 in my course book. Then I'll need to write out some key points, and then I'm gonna have to check out this website they have linked. I usually like to note down any new definitions that I've just learned into my notebook, and I also write down any extra information that I need to remember.
Step 3. Quizzes.
At the end of each module, there is a quiz that awaits to be completed. This quiz is there to test your knowledge from what you've just learned. These quizzes are usually multiple choice, which makes it quite easy and super fun. It is definitely a great way to revise for your upcoming assignment, as you can retake them as many times as you want.
Step 4. Revision and preparation.
Before doing the assignments, it is important to revise and review everything you have just learned one last time. You can even do the quiz once more to make sure that you are fully prepared to do the assignment. Right before I start my assignment, I like to organize my desk space. I put out my assignment, my notebook, and a pen. And if I need to use my computer, I put that out as well.
Step 5. Assignments.
Now it's time to start. Every assignment has an instruction page where it will instruct you to either complete it under exam conditions or if it is an open book assignment. It will also show the recommended time limit, however you don't need to follow this as it is just an assignment. On my economics assignment 5, instructions, it says that I need to write on lined paper using a black pen. It also further says to upload your work on Canvas. However, it doesn't say anything about working in exam conditions, so this is an open book assignment. After I finished my assignment, I scan it on an app called Cam Scanner and then send it directly on Canvas.
Step 6. Marks and feedback.
Usually, marks and feedback from your tutor will be given back to you within a week. The feedback you get from your tutor is very helpful as it tells you what you've done correctly and what you must improve on. With the feedback, you also get the specimen answers sheet, which gives all the answers to the assignment. And to make the most of my feedback, I do the questions that I've gotten wrong once more. This is just to make sure that I've understood the module and won't do the same mistake twice.
Enjoyed hearing from Steph there and the strategies that she employs. One thing that always strikes me when I see that video is she has developed some excellent strategies that work for her as an independent homeschooler, in terms of how she is reviewing and revising the work that she is doing, in terms of making sure she is fully familiar with the content before attempting the assignment, which is where the tutor is providing detailed guidance and feedback. It's worth noting that she was talking about the IGCSE phase of Wolsey Hall, which is the first external examination phase. And I will talk about the subjects on offer there shortly. But our assignments in the IGCSE phase and the ASA level phase are all designed to ensure that students feel confident and have the necessary skills and techniques when they go into those external examinations. So again, as a homeschooler, you know that the work they're completing as part of their modules, as part of their assignments, are all preparing them well for the examinations ahead. So just to move on to talk briefly now about the courses that are on offer in the different secondary phases. We start with the lower secondary phase. So students in a mainstream setting in lower secondary would typically be aged between 11 and 14. You can notice on the screen now that a number of the courses from upper primary follow through into the lower secondary phase. For me, this is a really exciting moment, that transition from the upper primary to lower secondary for each child. It's a time when students can really further develop their passions for different subjects that they've already started in the primary phase, as well as exploring new and different subjects in order to work out what pathway lies ahead before they move on to IGCSE and A-level studies. So you can see that we still have the core subjects designated in blue here, English, maths and science, as well as English as a second language is on offer at lower secondary level in years 7, 8 and 9. English as a second language is designed for non-native English speakers to allow them to develop English language competence in the 4 different skills of listening, reading, writing and speaking. Our admissions team will be able to give you more information about the differences between English and English as a second language, but it is worth saying that there are ways for students to study English as a second language and then transition into the English course, which leads on to the English first language IGCSE, and again prepares them for more discursive subject study in the future. Alongside the core subjects, we have a variety of additional subjects that your child might want to explore. We offer both history and international history. History tends to be the European, UK-centric history. International history deals with different civilizations around the globe. So dependent on where you're located or your child's interests in history, you can pick a course that really suits them. It's worth noting that the international history course is designed around an e-book. There is not a paper textbook version for the international history course. So that one is very much an online course, whereas all of the others are this blend of online, offline learning that Christine spoke about and you've seen in the other videos. We have also on offer 3 modern foreign languages, French, German and Spanish in lower secondary. These are all ab initio, meaning you do not require prior knowledge of any of those languages before studying the courses. However, if you have studied them at primary level, then you are likely to be able to adjust the pace accordingly and work a little bit faster at the beginning of the course, because some of it will be familiar, just extending that knowledge that they have previously learnt. We do have 2 technology courses, is how I will phrase it, on offer in lower secondary. We have digital literacy and computing. These can be studied alongside each other if your child is very passionate about this particular area. There are some key differences which I'll just tease out here. So for computing, this links to the computing course from upper primary. It follows directly through. Computing is really centered around the programming and coding aspect of technology. So it is a challenging course, and we would always recommend that students do have some prior knowledge of computing when starting this course. Digital literacy is more about learning how to be a good digital citizen, how to exist in the digital age in which we live, and also develop key competencies that will be useful in every day. So, you know, learning how to effectively use spreadsheets, more IT literacy rather than programming and coding. So this is why both of those courses can be taken together, but sometimes some students prefer the digital literacy, some prefer computing. We also have the creative courses of art and music, and then some additional newer courses such as Latin and the Roman World, Global Perspectives. Latin and the Roman World is a lovely blend of classical civilization and Latin language. Again, doesn't require any prior knowledge. In terms of the number of subjects that we would recommend studying in lower secondary, it's similar to upper primary, to how Christine described, dependent on your status as a homeschooling family. In a mainstream school in lower secondary, students study typically between 12 and 13 subjects. This includes PE, DT, etc. Now, as a homeschooling family, you may not want your child to have that range or that number of subjects to study. And with Wolsey Hall, that is absolutely fine. We would always recommend studying the core subjects, English, maths and science, as they are absolutely essential when we're looking at future pathways. In terms of the specific number of subjects at lower secondary, I would always say it's ideal to have a broad base in lower secondary, to be thinking about what subjects your child wants to take at IGCSE to ensure that they have the prerequisite foundation knowledge to access those courses. To put that very clearly, if your child is thinking about studying IGCSE history, we would always recommend they study history or international history at lower secondary level in years 7, 8 and 9, because they will need that content knowledge to access the IGCSE. So it's about, in lower secondary, leaving as many doors and pathways open as possible for your child as they move through higher up in their educational journey. If you're using Wolsey Hall purely for homeschooling, then we would recommend a minimum of 5 to 7 lower secondary subjects. Before we talk about the subjects in IGCSE and A-level, I just wanted to take a moment to speak about external examinations, because these phases are externally examined. At Wolsey Hall, all of our students enter their external examinations as private candidates. This means that when you enroll upon an IGCSE or A-level course with Wolsey Hall, you will have access to our exams information course and our 2 exams officers, one who supports our UK families and one who supports our international families. This course and our exams officers will help you look and locate an exam centre as local to you as possible. Because on the day that the examination boards of Cambridge and Pearson Edexcel designate, you will go and your child will go to the examination centre to take their examination papers. So they will physically be at your local centre, go into a room with other students, take their examination by completing the papers. Those papers will then be sent to the external examination boards for marking, and the results will be released on the national results day, dependent on the subject and the level. It's worth noting that if you live very remotely, you may have to travel to an examination centre. So we would always recommend researching this prior or during the enrolment phase of these courses. Our exams information course does contain a wealth of examination centres that do accept private candidates, but it's always worth double checking and triple checking so that you are able to find one that suits your location as a family. These external examinations, the results come directly from Cambridge and Pearson Edexcel. They are recognised by universities and employers worldwide. They have very high stakes currency in terms of an IGCSE or an A-level. So you can rest assured that these examinations will allow your child to achieve their aspiration of university or indeed employment and a career. So to look now at the different subjects that we have on offer in our 2 upper phases at Wolsey Hall. In IGCSE, which incidentally stands for International General Certificate of Secondary Education, meaning it's got an international context to it, we offer a range of different subjects. You can see our core subjects has somewhat exploded. We have a large variety in offer. This means that you are able to pick the subject and the content level that suits your child, dependent on their future aspirations. So for English, we have English language, which is a first language qualification, English literature, which is the study of plays, novels, poetry, etc. And English as a second language, which is a foreign language qualification. All of those lead to one IGCSE. In terms of higher education and looking at university level, English first language is that key currency level 2 IGCSE qualification. IGCSE English as a second language is accepted at university level, but it is likely a supplementary English qualification will be required for universities such as IELTS. So again, our admissions team will be happy to talk to you about that during an admissions call. We offer 2 maths subjects at IGCSE. The really, really important one is the maths course. This provides students with that level 2 mathematics qualification that employers and universities want to see. The maths course exists at different levels. There is a core level, meaning your child will be able to access up to a grade C in their examination, or indeed an extended level where they can access all the way up to A star. You can pick the level that suits your child. If your child wants to study maths or sciences at a higher level, such as A level, the extended maths course is right for them. If they are seeking a strong level 2 IGCSE qualification without any desire to study maths or sciences later, the core level will suffice for that purpose and is an excellent course for them to follow. The additional maths qualification is one for our very, very keen mathematicians. It leads on to the further maths A level. We then have a variety of science courses on offer. We have single sciences, biology, chemistry, and physics. These all lead to one single science IGCSE. So one IGCSE in physics, one in chemistry, one in biology. That means the content is exceptionally in-depth. We offer 2 alternative science qualifications, coordinated sciences, which means your child studies all 3 sciences, but it leads to 2 IGCSEs. So the content is just slightly reduced. This qualification is great if your child is looking to study a variety and range of IGCSEs, but keep all doorways open for A-level, as you can go on to study A-level sciences with coordinated science IGCSEs. It provides a great foundation for that. The combined science qualification, again, is studying all 3 sciences, but leads to 1 IGCSE. This qualification is fantastic for students wanting a science level 2 qualification at IGCSE level, but not wanting to do science A levels. You then have a variety of option subjects to pick from, the languages, history, German, business, economics. So you can pick and choose and build that bespoke curriculum without any constraints of option blocking or timetabling that may exist in a mainstream school. Just one thing to note before we touch on A-level, the Latin IGCSE does not require prior knowledge. It is ab initio, whereas German, French and Spanish do require lower secondary studies in order to be able to access them. Moving on to the A-levels now. Just to flip back slightly to IGCSE in terms of recommended number of subjects. As a minimum, we would recommend 5 IGCSEs, including English, maths and science. This would be the absolute minimum that a university would be looking at. If your child is thinking of applying to competitive university courses, we would be recommending a much higher level of GCSEs, such as 10 or even 11 IGCSEs, in order to make sure that their application is well regarded and that the university can see they can cope with the rigor and demands of a large curriculum of study. Mainstream students would be studying between 8 and 10 IGCSEs, to put it into context. When students move into the AS and A-level phase of Wolsey Hall, this is where they start to specialise further, typically studying between 3 or 4 subjects at this level over 2 academic years. AS is designated year 1 study, and the second year of study constitutes the full A-level. We offer a variety of subjects at A-level that come from Cambridge and Pearson EdXL. To touch just briefly on the science qualifications, you'll notice there is a UK version and an international version. Both of these come from Pearson EdXL. The UK version is for UK students, international is for those students that are outside of the UK. The key difference is the UK biology A-level comprises a practical endorsement part, as do the chemistry and physics qualifications. The international qualifications do not comprise a practical section. Their practical skills are assessed via a theory paper at the A-level part. To let you, I know parents often ask, but how is that? What's that going to mean further on? Is that going to be seen differently by universities? The answer is simply no. They are recognised exactly at the same level. They both constitute a full A-level and are well received. We have had students who have studied international biology A-level, UK biology A-level, both receive university offers from Oxford and Cambridge. So just hopefully that puts your minds at rest. You can see details of all of the A-level courses on our website and find out a little bit more about them there.
Thank you. So I'm just going to touch briefly on the additional support that we have for families. All of this information regarding these different services are on our website. And so if you are interested in any of these, then you can go and look for more information on our website. And likewise, you can ask the admissions officer that you speak with a little bit more about these particular services. So just to start, we have learning support and well-being as a service. So we do have a dedicated team who looks after learning support and well-being. And this service is really helpful for students and for parents as well, who may be looking for some support over and above the academic support of tutors. So learning support covers things like mentoring services, study skills. There's a parental advice service as well for those parents that may need some additional support and guidance. So it is a lovely addition to studying with Wolsey Hall to be able to access these additional services. Likewise, for those in examination years or in lower secondary who are looking to figure out their pathway, there is a career and university advice service as well that any Wolsey Hall families can take advantage of if they were to join Wolsey Hall and would like to pay for these additional services. Likewise as well, there is a reference service as well. So references are often required for universities, colleges, etc. And we have a reference service that can help provide some information as required about your child's study with Wolsey Hall. So these are just a few of the additional services, because there's also community as well, which Ruth is going to mention. But if you want more information, do speak to your admissions officer or do take a look on our website to find out more.
So Christine and I have spoken a lot about the academics in this presentation, so you could get to know the Wolsey Hall courses. For us at Wolsey Hall, it isn't only about the academics. We are committed to a very holistic education, and as such, we provide different opportunities for our families and students to stay connected and experience things outside of the academic sphere. So we do have a student community in both primary and secondary. In this community, it's secure, password protected, etc. And there are clubs that students can join. So students can be involved in things such as chess club, Lego club, debate club, book clubs, engaging with other homeschoolers around the globe to get to know them and to develop passions in different areas and be creative. In secondary, we also have a secure secondary student forum. So again, students are able to connect with other homeschoolers and chat about their favourite books or what they've been doing at the weekend with each other to, again, build that sense of community. We also stay connected with our families and our parents via primary newsletters and really active parent Facebook groups as well. Again, building that network of Wolsey Hall families on a global level. At this point, I'm going to hand back over to Lynn. Thank you very much for your time this morning and listening to the presentation.
Thank you very much, Christine and Ruth, for that presentation. I appreciate we are probably at time, but we would like people to have a little bit of time just to post their questions in the Q&A. So we will run for a few more minutes and give you a chance to actually type some questions in. So do please feel free to add your questions by typing them, as we mentioned before, at the bottom of the screen. Again, please let us know the age and education level of your child so that we can tailor our response to that. We will just introduce a couple of the questions into the live conversation as well. So just to start with, for primary, and I guess this is probably also relevant for secondary, will there be a score sheet or certificate which shows me how my child has done?
Yeah, so in primary, there are a couple of different things that are provided. So on all of our courses, you get an end of course report. So you get a report at the end of it that shows the average grade that your child received in each of their subjects studied, and that is kind of an official document that you are able to keep as evidence of your child's study with Wolsey Hall. At the primary level, we also send progress reports at 3 points in the journey, and that's just to demonstrate how what your child received as feedback in their assignments and the assignment grades. And due to the age of most of the children in primary, we also have certificates as well. So for your child, they will get a certificate for finishing each part of the course, and they may get an additional certificate or two from Wolsey Hall if they've been showing great effort or that they're making fantastic progress. So we have a two-pronged approach in primary, something for the student and something that is more official and formal for parents to keep as evidence of study.
In secondary, similar to primary, we provide reports at the end of courses for parents that include the average assignment grades, etc. To note, that would be at the end of the IGCSE period, because that's typically 2 years of study. Also, as parents, you will have access to all of the feedback that tutors have been providing as an observer on your child's courses. So you'll be able to keep in touch and monitor that as well yourselves. And in secondary, we have a head of secondary certificate for students who are showing outstanding progress and effort. So students are nominated for those by their tutors and student progress managers. It's one of my favourite things to be sending out to our secondary students to recognise their achievements.
Thank you both. You mentioned that a child could work at a higher level if perhaps they are already sort of working at that kind of level. Is that true for a student who may need a little bit of extra support and perhaps are currently a year 8 age, but perhaps should be working at a year 7 level? And also, is it also true that we could support a student who's doing maybe maths at a higher level, but English at a lower level?
Absolutely, yes. It applies both ways. So a student may be year 8 age, but wanting to work at year 7 level in, say, a couple of subjects or indeed all subjects to revisit and consolidate the learning. If for any reason, perhaps they haven't been able to complete the year 7 curriculum, not a problem at all. The second part of the question, Lynn, as well, a student could be working at year 8 level in 5 of their 6 subjects, and the 6th subject may be at a higher level. That is not a problem at all. Our admissions team and student progress managers, once we get into that higher part of the lower secondary, year 8, year 9, and IGCSEs, would talk to you as a family in terms of planning examination sittings as well, to try and tie it all up nicely together so your child is sitting external examinations at a similar point. So we help you do that as part of our admissions and ongoing support with our SPMs.
Thank you, Ruth. I've had a couple of questions actually of a very similar theme. What is the difference between an AS level and an A level? And is AS a prerequisite for A levels?
Okay, so AS and A level are terms that Cambridge use to describe how they divide up their 2-year A level programme of study. So if a student is studying a Cambridge qualification, they have the option to take exams at the end of year 1, which is called an AS. Then, as long as they take their second set of A-level exams within 13 months, those 2 results are added together to create a full A-level. So, to answer one of the questions, Lynn, is AS a prerequisite for A-level? Yes, because it forms part of it. A subject may have 4 examination papers. 2 of Cambridge will be designated AS, 2 will be designated, old style terms was called A2, but we kind of got rid of that, but they get added together to make the A level. We do offer some courses that are UK A levels, and these are very different. The UK A levels that we offer are very linear, meaning that they have to take all exams at the end. You cannot divide them into the 2 years like we can with the Cambridge qualifications, meaning that if you choose to study a UK biology qualification, you will need to decide if you are taking the AS or the A level, as the content is different, and you can't take the AS and then carry on onto the A level. You would have to retake those exams at the end. I hope that explains. I think there's some more detail about it on the website as well, if that's helpful.
Yes, there certainly is. Yeah, I think there's quite a lot of detail on that. Is there a discount for a second child? There's a 1.5 year difference between these two children. Is there a discount for a second child who may even be studying the same subject?
Yes, you can see details of all discounts and fees on our website.
Thank you. Is there a minimum number of subjects students need to study to pass a grade? Interested particularly in Year 7 and IGCSE, but I think it's just as relevant for primary as well.
No, but Christine, do you want to go first to talk about primary, and then I'll go on to lower secondary and IGCSE?
Yeah, so it works a little bit differently to thinking about a traditional school. So in a traditional school, a physical school setting, you have a number of different subjects and you are in a year group and or a form group, and you go through the year learning all of those different subjects, and at the end of that year your school kind of says, oh, you've finished year 3 or you've finished form 3, and now you move on to year 3 or year 4 or form 4. We don't work like that. So Wolsey Hall doesn't specify a minimum number of subjects that you must study with Wolsey Hall to say that you have completed a year group in a holistic sense of the year group. We work more on a subject by subject basis. So it's a little bit different to how a physical school works. So if you are saying, how many subjects should I do, or what subject should I do to represent a year group in a physical school, that's a slightly different thing. And I would say that at the primary level, you really must be covering at least the core subjects plus 2 other subjects at primary level. So if you want a rounded education that says with Wolsey Hall, because you can use different pathways for learning, but with Wolsey Hall, I want to be able to say, I feel like my child has finished year 3 in its entirety, then you would really be needing to take 5 subjects, 3 of which would be core as a minimum, to have an overall sense of completing a year group. But of course, you may, for example, do art outside of Wolsey Hall. Your child may go to some kind of club or some kind of lessons elsewhere as well. So the main thing for you as a homeschooling family is to really just make sure that your child, until they get to the examination years, is getting a breadth of subject knowledge and understanding through whatever means suit your family. So some of those might be through Wolsey Hall and following our courses, and some of those might be gaining experience elsewhere. Does that help, Lynn? I don't know if I've completely answered that question as the person was hoping for, but that's my best kind of way to describe it.
No, I think that's a good answer. Thank you very much, Christine. Is there anything else that you wanted to add, Ruth?
Everything Christine said applies to lower secondary. She mentioned there, obviously, when we get into external examinations, that links a little bit differently. Again, I think I mentioned when talking through the courses, in a mainstream school, students would typically study 8 to 10 IGCSEs. So if you're looking to represent a mainstream school experience, that would be the number of IGCSEs recommended. The minimum recommendation is 5, but it is worth noting that that is not going to provide access to competitive university courses, because the majority of students do study 8 to 10. And therefore, when applying to, highly competitive courses, students need to be considering a larger number of IGCSEs. But again, that might be with Wolsey Hall or outside of Wolsey Hall, similar to how Christine described.
Thank you both. Our Q&A has been really busy this morning, so I can see my colleagues are still busily typing here, and I think we still have some more questions popping in. I'll just ask Ruth, what is the difference between an IGCSE and a GCSE?
Oh, okay. So the GCSE part stands for General Certificate of Secondary Education. They are both a level 2 qualification in terms of they both are at the same level. The I stands for international. This means that if you're studying an IGCSE, the content and the context of it will have an international focus. GCSE will perhaps have a UK focus, and they are UK qualifications. That's the general acceptance of those terms, but they both essentially mean the same things. To be clear, we offer one GCSE currently, a Pearson Edexcel Psychology GCSE, and all of the remainder of our subjects are IGCSEs. The reason we don't have Psychology IG is it doesn't exist.
Thank you, Ruth. Okay, as we are well over time now, I'd like to introduce everyone to Tamara from our admissions team. And I have one final question, Tamara, for you, which is if I have any further questions about homeschooling with Wolsey Hall Oxford, how can I go about finding out the answers to these?
Hello. You go onto the Wolsey Hall website and click on Contact Us and then complete an inquiry form. That will come through to the admissions team, who will send you some tailored information about your child's studies and maybe invite them to take the online ready tests or placement checks to find the correct level in each of their chosen subjects. And then most importantly, we'll arrange an admissions call or meeting with you to talk about your child's studies. So please go onto the website, Contact Us button, and then complete an inquiry form.
Thank you, Tamara. I can see there are still some questions in the Q&A, so we will continue to answer those just for a couple of more minutes. However, I would just like to extend a really big thank you to everyone for joining us today. We hope you found the session useful and informative, and that's given you a really good understanding of the sort of personalised education your child can receive when homeschooling with Wolsey Hall. If you do have any further questions, as Tamara has explained, please do go to our website, submit an inquiry form, and our admissions team will be really happy to have a private one-to-one chat with you about everything and anything to do with your child and the education that you want for them. So once again, a really big thank you to everyone for joining us today, and have a great rest of the day. Thank you very much.